One memorable night I had was when I drove into town after a swing shift. Rich Smythe, who was also in Able Flight 202, was with me. It was well after midnight by the time we got into Iraklion, and, unfortunately for us, it looked as though everything was closed. We had left base without eating, figuring we would get something in town. After parking the Jeep, we walked the main streets and even checked out some of the narrow alleys, trying to find a place open where we could get a souvlaki or something. It was so late even the sidewalks were unusually empty. Unexpectedly, we ran into John Simmons, who worked with us on Able Flight and was a 203. John also had been looking for a place where he could get something to eat. After he told us that he hadn't found anything open, we decided to walk over to what we called Market Street to help ourselves to a piece of fruit or two. Market Street was remarkable. Very few of the shops, if any, were locked up after hours. Stacks of fruits and vegetables always stood ready for the next day. In addition, there were unrefrigerated goat carcasses and chickens hanging unattended. Although eating some fruit had been our initial plan, when we walked up Market Street, we decided to help ourselves to some chickens. Our intent was to take them to the cave at Florida Beach, stick a wire coat hanger through them, build a fire, and cook them. Hunger problem would be solved. However, while Rich and I stood on Market Street watching John trying to untangle the chickens from the wires and hooks, the quiet of the night suddenly ended.
Let's get the hell out of here!
Turning around, we saw a Greek cop running towards us fast.
Oh crap, run!
We took off running like crazy up Market Street. When we rounded a corner, I told John and Rich to keep on going, and I would delay the cop. I didn't have to say that twice. So, John and Rich ran towards a very high fence to climb in order to get away. At that point, I pretended I was too drunk to have been one of the Market Street culprits. I began singing in a drunken way and slowly staggered back towards Market Street, listening to the police whistle and footsteps as the cop got closer. The policeman came around the corner and ran right up to me and stopped. Then he shone his flashlight right in my face. My bowels weakened, but fortunately didn't empty. I smiled as though he were my best friend in the world. I wanted to keep his attention on me, so he wouldn't notice Simmons and Smythe climbing the fence. So I began a one-sided conversation that the locals seemed to understand, where every word was a single sentence, and pointing back and forth helped a lot. Philos, Yasu. You, Greek. Me, American. Greeks, Americans, friends. Philoses. You, me, Uzo? That established that I considered him my friend, as well as pointing out our nationalities. Now, because our two countries were NATO allies, the offer of a drinking session was on the table. At this point, Philos was unsure of his next move. When I noticed that John and Rich had reached the top of the fence, I muttered something to my new best friend.
Philos, look!
And then pointed out the escaping criminals just before they dropped on the other side. I was trying to be helpful. The cop looked at them on top of the fence, looked once more at incoherent me, who obviously was too drunk to have been involved. Then he took off running after them. When I saw Philos begin to climb the fence, I did one of the hardest things I have ever done. I slowly staggered down Market Street when every instinct said, "Get your ass out of here now." By the time I got to Lion Square, where obviously the cop couldn't see me anymore, I set an unrecognized world record for the mile as I ran to my Jeep to await the arrival of those fleeing felons. Although the three of us scattered throughout Iraklion that night, we miraculously managed to meet up again. John with his coat turned inside out, so the cop wouldn't recognize him, just in case he ran into him. John was a smart-ass kid who simply wanted to get drunk and laid and have fun. He was as irreverent as they come. John came to Crete from Fort Meade, where he had studied Turkish that had been taught by some old American guy who didn't even know Turkish himself. After landing on Crete in the middle of the night, John remembers seeing the shrine across from Florida Beach as he was driven to base. After that, in his words, the entire tour was pretty much downhill.
Work was pretty much a waste of time. I came to fight a war, and the war was already over when I got there. So I had to deal with earth-shattering interceptions such as, "I beg to inform Your Excellency that the Cobras are climbing the antenna poles," and of course the desperate transmissions such as, "Please send potatoes quickly." Exciting stuff. So I just relaxed and enjoyed the beaches. I learned that owning a car on the island was like unto the proverbial one-eyed man in the land of the blind, a king. I drove that old 55 Chevy everywhere it was humanly possible, and to some places where it should never have gone.
John once had a scrape with some Germans and Greek shepherds over near Modela, but his car, along with the judicious use of a pistol and spear gun, got him and his companion safely out of town. He found out later that he was the subject of some pretty intensive diplomatic traffic, but nothing much came of it.